Welcome to Gaia's Call, where stories ignite your spirit and the earth whispers her secrets. I'm Brad Swift, a Write on Purpose author of eco-fiction and nonfiction, inviting you to become an eco-guardian. Together, let's explore the wonders of our world and take action to protect them. Listen closely. Gaia is calling. And today's Gaia's Call is to strange people and how we change the world. The gift of becoming the outlier. This is part 3 of the Strange Man mini-series here on Substack. So let's dig in. Also, there are links on the website for part 1 and for part 2. So there comes a moment on any meaningful inner journey when you suddenly realize something quietly radical. You no longer fit the default settings of the culture around you. You still look the same, you sound mostly the same, and move through grocery stores and coffee shops and family gatherings the way everyone else does. But something in your internal operating system has been rewritten. And even though no one can see that shift from the outside, it begins to shape everything you do. At first, it's subtle, then steady, then unmistakable, until someone close to you, maybe even your own child, pauses at some small act of yours, like a takeout box filled with coffee grounds by the door, and says, you are a strange person. In that moment, if you listen closely, some deeper part of you might whisper back, yes, I am, and thank God for that. Because, as Krishnamurti reminds us, it is no measure of health to be well adjusted to a profoundly sick society. And if our culture has normalized disconnection from nature, endless consumption, and an almost religious devotion to convenience, then perhaps strangeness is not a flaw, it's a sign of sanity emerging. The world has never been changed by the comfortable middle. The center of culture is where habits sleep, where norms self-replicate, and where the 4 great untruths feel so familiar, so unquestioned, that they become invisible. The middle is stable, predictable, and by design, inert. The people who shift the world don't live there. They live on the edges, collecting coffee grounds because soil is sacred, planting food forests where lawns used to be, choosing reciprocity over convenience, and raising children and grandchildren to see Earth not as resources, but as kin. They live in the quiet place where old assumptions lose their grip and a new story begins to take root. This is the frontier where emerging cultures are born, not through speeches or global summits, but through tiny, repeated acts that seem irrational to the old worldview until suddenly they become common sense. Every new pattern starts with one outlier. History and nature both tell a similar story. Transformation begins with the one who behaves differently long before anyone else understands why. There is always a first strange person, the first to compost instead of discard, the first to conserve water when everyone else lets it run, the first to ask, what if we treated the earth as a partner rather than a possession? These individuals are often misunderstood at first. They're told they're impractical, idealistic, or naive. Yet time and again, the very behaviors once dismissed later become the blueprint for what is needed. Slowly, beautifully, the outlier's strangeness ripples outward. What began as a single point of deviation becomes a signal of the future, a small tremor that precedes a cultural shift. Why being strange is a compliment. To be strange simply means you are living from a different set of assumptions than the dominant culture. Perhaps you've internalized a new worldview, something rooted in interconnection, sufficiency, reciprocity, and stewardship. And because of that, your actions no longer match the old script. You compost differently, you shop differently, you speak differently. You see the world through a lens that honors life, not consumption. You feel the earth in your bones. And yes, you may place coffee grounds in a repurposed takeout box with a sense of reverence that would bewilder most people in a Costco checkout line. But this is what spiritual and ecological evolution looks like in real life. A quiet willingness to act from a deeper truth than when it makes you stand out. The gift of the outlier role. One of the great misunderstandings is that the outlier is an exception. The truth is the outlier is the beginning. Outliers are pattern breakers, trend starters, and early signalers of a new cultural DNA. They embody tomorrow's norms today. And yes, it can be lonely at times. People may misunderstand your motives or gently tease your choices. But outliers don't lead by consensus. They lead by integrity. And in doing so, they create a substantial gravitational field. People, especially the young, feel it. They may not be able to articulate what they're sensing, but they recognize the authenticity, the groundedness, the coherence. They intuitively know this is the direction life is trying to move. This is how cultures shift, not from the top down, but from the inside out, one quietly courageous person at a time. And the new story? Well, it needs strange people. We are living through a moment when the old stories are collapsing under their own weight. The whole notion that we're separate from nature, that more is always better, the Earth's resources are infinite, and that technology will save us. These are fictions that no longer sustain us. Meanwhile, the regenerative story, the one Ernesto van Beeporg, and excuse me if I mispronounce your last name, describes as the emergence of a regenerative field. That's just beginning to coalesce. It's forming in pockets, in communities, in backyards, in basements, in small gardens, in homesteads, in writer circles, and in earth listening circles, and in the imaginal hearts of people who sense that a different way of being is not only possible, but necessary. In these liminal times, strange people serve an essential function. They hold the shape of the future before the future fully exists. They embody practices that seem trivial to the old world, but are foundational to the new one. Even something as small as carrying home coffee grounds becomes a quiet ritual of allegiance to a culture that honors reciprocity and regeneration. These acts are seeds, and seeds do their most important work underground, long before anyone sees the sprout. A final invitation to all the strange ones. If you've been feeling out of step, misunderstood, like you're too much, or simply different from the culture around you, here's an invitation to reframe that experience. You're not too much. You're simply early. Early to the regeneration story. Early to the worldview that sees Earth as a beloved relative. Early to a culture that values meaning over consumption. And early to the way your grandchildren will one day live as naturally as breathing. Some strange people change the world not because they try to, but because they don't abandon the truth that has taken root in them, even when it's still unfashionable. So keep going. Keep tending soil. Keep listening to the earth. Keep practicing the four great truths until they shape every gesture and choice. Keep being lovingly, courageously strange. Because the future that's emerging, the one your actions are quietly helping to midwife, will one day look back with gratitude and recognize that it was the strange ones who held the lantern while the rest of the world was still stumbling in the dark. And if this touched something true in you, please share it. The regenerative future grows through small ripples from brave, strange people.